So today we are reviewing a brand new set of irons from a company that you probably will have heard of, but maybe don't know that much about. However, these brand new irons, they might just be about to change all that. So before we touch on these subtle yet wonderfully designed golf clubs, I actually want to talk a little bit about the man who designed them. And that man is Tom Wishon. Go in the hole. Woo! The man behind Wishon Golf, Tom Wishon. Now, he should be probably credited and maybe talked about a little bit more in today's industry than he is, and maybe Wishon should be a bit of a bigger brand than it is. But Tom's been around a very, very long time, well over 35 years in the industry, and he's credited with some of the kind of breakthroughs in club design. Now, he's designed over 300 individual club heads, which is just staggering. It's the most from any person in the 500-year history of golf. He's designed clubs that have been used to win PGA Tour, Seniors Championship Tour, in the Ryder Cup. He's written 9 books, 2 of them bestsellers. He's credited with things like creating the first ever adjustable hosel wood, crazy things like that. So the man who designed these clubs has an unbelievable wealth of knowledge and expertise when it comes to club designing and building. So before we jump into the looks, sound, feel and performance of these clubs, let's take a little look at how they've been designed. Right, so let's touch a little bit on the kind of design, technology and construction of these irons. So this is Wishon's next generation of truly forged carbon steel irons. So they use a 5-step forging process to make them, and they're using 1035 carbon steel, which I know doesn't really mean much to us, right? But it's quite a soft carbon steel. And obviously using that multi-step process to ensure that the forging is as strong as it can possibly be, but still feels really, really good. And then in the back brings us on to the next part of the kind of technology within this iron, the 585 PC. So progressive cavity. Now, I really like this design feature of these irons. Obviously, from the 4 through 7, we've got cavity back irons, and then from the 8 to gap wedge, they're muscle back irons. Now, each one is kind of individually CNC milled and optimized to create what Wishon believes is more optimal launch and spin conditions for each iron. Now, what we mean by that is obviously where they're taking the mass from and where they're leaving the mass obviously distributes the CG vertically. Now that is going to have a big impact on the launch and spin. So for example, in a 4 iron, we kind of want that little bit of help getting the ball up in the air. So we're leaving the mass lower down in the club, more behind the hitting area. Now as we get further up the iron set, it progressively gets higher and higher and higher. Now, to us kind of mere mortals in the design world and golfing world in general, when we obviously hit the iron, it's always going to deflect like that. So it's almost deflecting down, right? Because we're going to be hitting the iron kind of 3rd to 4th groove, kind of down here, hopefully. Shouldn't be hitting it up here too often. So it's going to gear the club. So the more mass that it's got behind the hitting area, the less the club is going to gear. The less the club gears, the more loft it retains, and therefore the launch is retained. But as we get up through the shorter irons into the kind of 8, 9 wedges, we really don't want that ballooning ball flight. We actually want that more penetrating, lower launch, higher spin ball flight. So moving the mass further up the head as we go through the set creates then more downward gearing effect. Therefore, that's decreasing the launch and increasing the spin, therefore optimizing the flight throughout the bag for each club, and obviously making it a little bit more friendly in the longer irons too. So yeah, I mean, subtle, but Really, really good tech. So the way these clubs have been designed is subtle yet very impressive. And that's kind of all you want from a player's set like this, a traditionally lofted set for your better players. It's subtle yet it's effectively doing exactly what we would want a better player's set to do. It's optimizing those launch and spin conditions to give us maximum control. So as I said, very impressive. Now we're going to jump into the performance part of this video, and this is going to be very interesting. We're obviously going to be talking about kind of sound and feel and numbers, and I'm going to be putting it head to head with one of the best performing irons of the year, in my opinion, and that is the Titleist T100. Now I've set both these irons to the same loft and the same lie. Both are playing KBS Tour 120 stiff. Now that's the shaft that came built in the Wishon set, which I actually quite like. I used to game the shaft. So we've left it as that. That's what I'm playing in the T100. Same loft, same lie, same length. This is going to be interesting. So we're going to be sticking to the Wishon for now. We're going to get a set with this first. As I said, 34 degrees in loft. So a very traditional 7-iron for nowadays standards. You get some crazy lofts sneaking in nowadays, 26 degrees, 27 degree 7-irons. For some people it's great, you know, it's absolutely fine, but yeah. It does feel really good, I'll be honest. Like, it does feel like hit some great shots with this iron so far. Absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, 17 launch, 6,900 backspin, 106 peak. It's pretty damn good. And yeah, touching on the feel, it feels solid. Obviously, 1035 carbon steel forged. It feels, I wouldn't say it's super soft, but it's firm but nice. It just feels like a solid iron. It really does. Sounds great, and yeah, we'll look at the numbers at the end, but it's looking pretty good. So looking down at address, it's just a very classic kind of look, I'd say. It's exactly what I'd expect to see looking down at kind of a better player's set of irons, better player's cavity back iron. It's obviously definitely not going to be as small as a T100 or the 100S because they are very, very small heads. I mean, they're smaller than most blades that are out nowadays. I'd say this is probably more in the realm of a Mizuno 223. I've actually got them there. I'll grab them quickly and I'll show you a little shot down by the ball of them. The T100 is obviously a very, very small looking head. Beautiful looking, but very, very small. I mean, actually putting it down by that, it's very, very small, isn't it? And then if I add into the mix a 223, yeah, I mean, the 100 is a very small head, isn't it? I mean, the 223 and the Wishon, I mean, the blade length of the Wishon is actually a little bit longer, I'd say. Top line, marginally smaller than the 223. Offset, probably similar. Maybe a little bit less offset on the Wishon. It's only 2 mil on the Wishon, so there's not a lot of offset on that at all. But yeah, that 100 is, that is a small head. The only other thing that stands out is obviously the Wishon being more of a kind of a satiny matte finish. It's not chrome, whereas the 100 and the 223 obviously are a chrome or more chromey looking, whereas the Wishon is, yeah, kind of a lot more satiny matte, which some people might love and some people won't. But for me, I think it's a great looking iron. That actually wasn't hit that well. It's a bit thin. Yeah, I'll take it. Again, for an iron that's kind of categorized as a better player's iron, I've actually been very, very impressed with the forgiveness on off-center hits. Similar to my 100S, like for the size of them, they're unbelievably forgiving. And I'd say the same for this. It's, I don't think it's that much less forgiving than what people would kind of categorize as your higher handicap clubs in terms of mishits. I really don't. Yeah. Again, I was a little bit thin. Tends to be my miss. Just get a bit steep, 7 down, catch a little bit low in the face. So centered though, the strike, so centered. Really loving how centered it is. And yeah, even the performance on slight mishits, just honestly, would take any day of the week. It's quite impressive. Right, here we go, shot 20. Let's make it a good one. Yeah, it's okay. Pulled it a tiny bit, but that's it. Yeah. Strike was decent, efficiency's pretty good. A little bit low, pretty much everything's been a tiny bit low to be honest, but that's certainly wouldn't grumble at 188 carry. I mean, this is, to be fair, playing probably about 182, 188, 6 yards downhill this hole. Holding my hands up. It's 6 yards downhill, 22 feet, which is, according to this, 6 yards. So that was actually a 182 carry on the flat. Still going to take that for a 34-degree 7-iron. So let's jump into the T100. Right, into the T100. Same shaft, same length, same loft, same lie. As I kind of touched on at the beginning, that is a small looking head. Like, going from the Wishon into this. Not that the Wishon's massive, this is just very, very small. Like, yeah, it looks like a tiny, tiny club down by that ball now, which I do quite like, to be honest. That's a great start. That was really quite chunky. Get up. Tell you what, still would take that. It's not the best strike. And again, with it being a little bit heavy outside, that might have been taking a little dip. But I still, if it did end up there, I would certainly take it. There's a slightly better strike. Yep. Slightly better strike. That was a better strike. That was a kind of strike I would be looking for. Yeah. 188 carry, which again, 182 on the flat. But that was perfect strike, perfect efficiency. That spin is interesting. 17 launch, 6,000 spin. That's, Yeah, feel, I mean, it's close. I would say I'd have to edge it to tight list. Just not, I wouldn't say by loads. I mean, I've had a few other people come in the studio. Well, quite a lot of other people have had in the studio, but a few of them I've said, have a little hit with those Wishons, let me know what you think. And most people have said it's that they feel a little firm, which I agree. I think they feel firmer than the tight list, but not loads. Like, I would edge it to the tight list, but it's not like a whitewash. The Wishon actually felt fantastic. As for performance, it could be very, very close. Very close. Tell you what, I am actually really looking forward to diving into these numbers. So I'm probably going to hit another 10 or so with the T100, get a really good data set. And then let's look at this data. Right, so here we go, performance data. And this is with 20 shots, 0 taken out. So at the top, we've got the Wishon 585, and on the bottom, we've got the T100. So first up, ball speed, pretty much a dead heat, to be honest with you. It's kind of what I would expect from two similar design irons at the same loft. We're not really going to see a massive difference there. In fairness, the Wishon was actually a little bit tighter, standard deviation, which is great, but pretty similar. Launch, did see the T100 launch slightly higher at, let's call that 17 degrees, versus the 585 at 16 degrees. Now, obviously, as you know, if you've watched a lot of my videos, I always keep an eye on the numbers as I'm going through, as I'm hitting all the shots. And I did see that as a consistent pattern, that the 100 did launch slightly higher and span slightly less. So we can see the Wishon spin in there at 6,700 on average, and the T100 at 6,200 on average. Now that is quite a big difference, considering a similar design iron at the same loft. Definitely goes to show there's something going on there with the kind of mass where that's positioned. As we kind of touched on earlier, the vertical CG has quite a big part to play in the launch conditions. And actually for me, I prefer that slightly lower launch and more spin. I'll drag the peak heights up in a minute. I can't imagine that they would be too far away from each other. But for me, typically with a lot of speed, I generally get quite a lot of height anyway. So actually bringing that launch down a little bit for me is not a negative at all. But that is quite interesting. Standard deviation of the spin was pretty much identical, really, within 15 revs. 385 with the Wishon, 370 with the T100. And the carry, I mean, it's 2 yards in it on average. On average, I got 2 yards more out of the T100, which realistically, with the standard deviations there, they're overlapping. It's pretty similar, to be honest, in terms of the actual carry number. But again, we actually see the Wishon slightly more consistent for me. The dispersion, there's actually nothing in it whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, from a performance standpoint, we'll flick over to the club data and have a little look in a minute as well. There is definitely differences there. You know, surprisingly, quite a bit lower launch and more spin out of the Wishon. So from a peak height perspective, there was 3 feet in it. The Wishon at 102 and the T100 at 105. And the angle of descent was virtually the same. It's like 0.2 of a degree in it, 49.6 and 49.8. So again, realistically, from a ball flight perspective, there's not loads going on there, to be honest. I mean, like, I'm happily gaming either of those, to be fair. Could maybe edge it to the Wishon, possibly, with that slightly lower launch. But that's going to be a personal preference. That's going to be dependent on delivery and peak height and all those kind of things as well. So flicking over into the club data, we can see that the Wishon was actually slightly more efficient on average, which is fantastic, to be honest. That's really good. Club speed, half a mile an hour in it, both at 95. Not much there. Dynamic loft, 0.1 in it, nothing there. Dynamic lie, the same. Path was 0.7 in it, slightly more inside with the T100, but you know, that's pretty consistent really. Angle of attack 6670. Then the only thing on average, the face was slightly more closed with the T100 as opposed to completely square apparently with the Wishon, but again, it's less than a degree. So I'm going to take that as a consistency of myself within a 40 shot data set. That's pretty consistent. But yeah, I mean, realistically, there's nothing across the board. Even the average strike was, I mean, I can just see a little red dot behind there. The average strike was identical. Club data, there's nothing there. So let's sum up. So in summary, a really good set of irons. Like, honestly, looks great, performs, as we've seen, fantastic. Stacks up against one of the best performing players cavity back irons that I believe is currently out there. And yeah, subsequently we will be adding Wishon to the demo matrix. We're definitely going to get some of these. We're going to be testing some other Wishon products as well and maybe adding those into the demo matrix. But you know, I think at the price point they're at, for the performance and the looks and the feel and the design and the tech of these irons, I mean, you really cannot go wrong. You need to have them in the drawer, I think. So it's exactly what we're going to do. So stay tuned, because we've also got some more testing coming with some other Wishon gear. These are a 1-length set of irons, hollow body construction, 1-length set, EQ1 NX. Don't even know if that's supposed to be said differently, but it's an EQ1 NX, hollow body iron, single length. We're going to be doing some testing with these as well, so will be a video on that, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, let me know what you thought. Any comments below? Very impressed, very impressed. Stay tuned. I'll see you soon.